The man stood at the top of the escarpment, the wind buffeting his body towards the edge. Even in the middle of the night, the air was thick with heat. He wiped the sweat from his smooth scalp, then cleaned his hands on his uniform. A week ago, he had stood on the beach 40 meters below, feet sinking into its red, powdery sand. From the bottom, when he looked up, the cliff curled over him like a gentle wave, its sweeping contour a poor reflection of the pounding surf that had formed it over thousands of years. He had once asked another border control officer why the sand was the color of faded blood rather than the warm semolina of his own island home. The officer had shrugged and said something about a coral reef further out. The man had imagined this red reef surrounding the tropical island like living barbed wire, reaching out with its jagged fingers to tear into the hull of any ship that dared enter its waters. Last week, the sand was littered with the swollen bodies of men, women, and children who'd failed to find the secret gateways in the reef. The man had taken a break from his task of collecting the bodies before the press arrived. He stood ankle-deep in the warm ocean water and looked up to the top of the escarpment. For a rare, sentimental moment, he allowed himself to consider the relativities of time and the frailty of human life. At his feet, the arm of a face-down child moved with the ebb and flow of the tide, hitting his ankle in time with the rhythms of a distant, ancient moon. Above his head, the escarpment stood, stoic and silent, its life longer than his, and certainly longer than the child's. But in a few thousand years, it too would have eroded away. He observed briefly that a long life and a short one were equally meaningless. He had taken many lives in the past, but now he'd chosen to guard the barely living and collect the dead. It was a quieter career path. On this day, the man stood at the dial lookout at the top of the escarpment, not at the bottom. He peered down at the red sand below and heard the push and pull of the tide breaking on the shore. This place was once a vantage point for the First Nations people who had lived here before the colonizers brought guns and famine. According to local legend, the original inhabitants stood where he was standing right now, but they did not survey the horizon for enemies. Instead, they looked up at the skies and the stars that embodied their creators and mapped patterns of safe passage for them over the ocean. In the moonlight, he saw the white froth of the waves hurling themselves against the red reef in the distance. Some were churned up and sent back into the ocean in disgrace. Some clambered over the reef and reached for the shore. The reef had once been called the Ring of Fire, in a language now erased, because when the sun set and there was just the right amount of humidity, the light refracted through the crystals of water in the air and the split frequency of red, orange, and yellow energy hit the coral, so that it appeared to be engulfed in flames. It was a beautiful evening. The wind gathered speed, lifting the frangipanis from the grove behind him, pink and yellow petals defying gravity. Beyond the trees, hidden by the foliage and rows of towering palm trees, the detention center slept fitfully in the heavy summer heat. The palms blocked the ocean gust that now swirled around him, filling his lungs with the taste of temple flowers and salt. It reminded him of home. He took a deep breath, stepped off the escarpment, and felt the red sand rush up towards him.